something. Maybe you can help me with something. This is a question I've been asking for a long time, maybe about 10 or 11 years. Haven't really gotten a good answer to it yet. Why is it that most of the people who are against abortion are people you wouldn't want to fuck in the first place? Boy, those conservatives are really something, aren't they? They're all in favor of the unborn. They will do anything for the unborn. But once you're born, you're on your own. You're on your own. God help you if you actually need something from one of those mean-spirited pricks, huh? Jesus, I would hate to need something like a sandwich. They'll shoot you in the asshole, steal your road map, and take your beer money away. Pro-life conservatives are obsessed with the fetus from conception to 9 months. After that, they don't want to know about you. They don't want to hear from you. No, nothing. No neonatal care, no daycare, no Head Start, no school lunch, no food stamps, no welfare, no nothing. If you're pre-born, you're fine. If you're preschool, you're shit out of luck. Conservatives don't give a shit about you until you reach military age. Then they think you are just fine, just what they've been looking for. Conservatives want live babies so they can raise them to be dead soldiers. Period. 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 Pro-life. These people aren't pro-life. Most of them are in favor of the death penalty. They all want bigger bombs and more guns. Now they're killing doctors. What kind of pro-life is that? They're not pro-life. You know what they are? They're anti-woman. Very simple thing to spot. Anti-woman. They don't like women. These people feel a woman's primary role is to function as a breeder for the state. Pro-life. I don't see many of these white Christian anti-abortion women volunteering to have any black fetuses transplanted into their uteruses, do you? No. You don't see that? That might be the Christian thing to do. I'm not going to stay up late and wait for that to come over the news. Operation Rescue. Why don't they rescue some of these crack babies? Take them home, give them some love, give them some shelter, give them what they need. You never hear that. There's not a lot of Christ in a lot of these Christians. And you won't see many of these anti-abortion people dousing themselves in kerosene and lighting themselves on fire, will you? You know, morally committed religious people in South Vietnam knew how to stage a goddamn demonstration, didn't they? They knew how to put on a fucking protest. Light yourself on fire! Come on, you Christians, let's see a little smoke to match that fire in your bellies. Hey, I got another question. How come when it's us, it's an abortion, and when it's a chicken, it's an omelet? Well, are we so much better than chickens all of a sudden? When did this happen, that we passed chickens in goodness? Name 6 ways we're better than chickens. See, nobody can do it. You know why? Because chickens are decent people. Nothing wrong with a chicken. You don't see chickens hanging around in drug gangs, do you? No, you don't see a chicken strapping some guy to a chair and hooking up his nuts to a car battery, do you? When's the last time you heard about a chicken came home from work and beat the shit out of his hen, huh? Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen because chickens are decent people. And we have the nerve to call them animals. You ought to hear what they call us. You ought to be in that hen house at midnight. It's not pleasant. But anyway, let's get back to this abortion shit. Now, is a fetus a human being? This seems to be the central question. Well, if a fetus is a human being, how come the census doesn't count them? Don't these people want to know how many human beings we got? If a fetus is a human being, how come when there's a miscarriage, they never have a funeral? I never see that. If a fetus is a human being, how come people say we have 2 children and 1 on the way, instead of saying we have 3 children? People say, People say life begins at conception. I say life began about 1 billion years ago, and it's a continuous process. It just keeps rolling along. And you know what? You know something? You can go back even further than that. What about the carbon atoms? Huh? I ask you, are we not to be concerned about these poor carbon atoms? Life on this planet would be impossible without carbon. Every carbon atom has the potential of becoming a part of someone's DNA. So is it just possible that maybe we shouldn't be burning all this coal? Doesn't every lump of coal have the potential of becoming someone named Jason? Or Jessica? Just looking for a little consistency in these anti-abortion arguments. Some of the really hardcore anti-abortion people will tell you that life begins at fertilization. Fertilization when the sperm fertilizes the egg, which is usually a few minutes after the man says, gee, honey, I was going to pull out, but the phone rang and it startled me. Fertilization. But even after that happens, even after the sperm fertilizes the egg, it's still 6 or 7 days before the fertilized egg reaches the uterus and is implanted in the uterine wall, implantation, which is when medical science would tell you pregnancy begins 6 or 7 days later, and not every egg makes it to the uterus. 80% of a woman's fertilized eggs are rinsed and flushed out of her body once a month during those delightful few days she has. They wind up on sanitary napkins, and yet they are fertilized eggs. So basically what these anti-abortion people are telling us is that any woman who's had more than one period is a serial killer. Just a little consistency is all I want. Hey, if these people really want to get serious, what about all the sperm that are wasted when the state executes a condemned man and one of these Christian guys who's watching comes in his pants? I mean, here's a guy standing over there with his jockey shorts full of little Vinnies and Debbies, and nobody's saying a word to the guy. Just a little consistency. Speaking of consistency, Catholics, which I was until I reached the age of reason, Catholics and other Christians are against abortions and they're against homosexuals. Well, who has less abortions than homosexuals? Leave these fucking people alone, for Christ's sake. Here is an entire class of people guaranteed never to have an abortion. And the Catholics and Christians are just tossing them aside. You would think they'd make natural allies. Go look for consistency in religion, huh? And speaking of my friends the Catholics, when John Cardinal O'Connor of New York and some of these other Catholic bishops, when they've experienced their first pregnancies and their first labor pains, and they've raised a couple of children on minimum wage, then I'll be glad to hear what they have to say about abortion. I'm sure it'll be wonderful. And I like to hear it. But in the meantime, what they ought to be doing is talking to these priests who took a vow of chastity and telling them to keep their hands off the altar boys. Keep your hands to yourself, Father. When Jesus said, suffer the little children come unto me, that's not what he was talking about. You know? He had something else in mind. But there are some rather exotic interpretations of the Bible floating around. So you know what I tell these anti-abortion people? I say, hey, if you think a fetus is more important than a woman, try fucking a fetus. Try getting a fetus to clean the shit stains out of your underwear. For no goddamn money. You know what comes up a lot in this abortion argument? Something that people call the sanctity of life. You've heard that, haven't you? The sanctity of life. Do you believe in it? Personally, I think it's a bunch of shit. I mean, life is sacred. Who said so? And where does the sanctity of life come from? And please don't tell me God. You know, we're not in first grade anymore. And secondly, I think if you read history, you can see that God is one of the leading causes of death. Has been for thousands of years. Hindus, Muslims, Jews, Catholics, Protestants, all taking turns killing each other just because God told them it was a good idea. The sword of God, the blood of the Lamb, vengeance is mine. Millions of dead motherfuckers. Millions of dead motherfuckers, all because they gave the wrong answer to the God question. Do you believe in God? No. Dead. Do you believe in God? Yes. Do you believe in my God? No. Dead. My God has a bigger dick than your God. You know? The people in charge always want you to believe in their God. You gotta be careful who you put in charge, because it's still going on all over the world. Right now, the best wars being fought, the most interesting, entertaining, and satisfying wars being fought right now are based on religious hatred. And that's fine with me. Hey, anytime a bunch of holy people want to kill each other, I'm a happy guy. But don't be giving me all this shit about the sanctity of life. I mean, even if there were such a thing, I don't think it's something you can blame on God. Huh. You know where the sanctity of life came from? We made it up. You know why? Because we're alive. Living people have a strong interest in promoting the idea that somehow life is sacred. You don't see Groucho Marx running around talking about this shit, do you? We're not hearing a whole lot from Mussolini on the subject, are we? What's the latest from JFK? Not a goddamn thing. You know why? Because JFK, Mussolini, and Groucho Marx are fucking dead. They're fucking dead, and dead people could give less than a shit about the sanctity of life. Only living people care about it. So the whole thing grows out of a completely biased point of view. The sanctity of life is a self-serving, man-made bullshit story. It's one of those things we tell ourselves so we'll feel good. Life is sacred. Makes us feel good. Meantime, let me ask you this. If everything that ever lived is dead, and everything alive is gonna die, where does the sacred part come in? Can you help me on that? Besides, even with all this shit we preach about the sanctity of life, we don't practice it. We don't practice it. Look at the things we kill. Mosquitoes and flies, because they're pests. Lions and tigers, because it's fun. Chickens and pigs, because we're hungry. Pheasants and quail, because it's fun. And we're hungry. And people, we kill people. Because they're pests. And it's fun. Here's something else. You notice the sanctity of life doesn't apply to cancer cells? You never see a bumper sticker that says save the tumors, do you? Or I break for advanced melanoma? Viruses, mold, mildew, maggots, fungus, barnacles, weeds, the crabs, E. coli bacteria, intestinal worms. Nothing sacred about them, huh? So at best, the sanctity of life is kind of a selective thing. We get to choose which forms of life we think are sacred, and we get to kill all the rest. Pretty neat deal, huh? You know how we got it? We made the whole fucking thing up. The whole thing. Sanctity of life is a bogus, man-made bullshit story. Enough of life, let's talk about death. Capital punishment. Now listen. Okay, stay with me on this. Capital punishment. A lot of people in this country want to expand capital punishment to include drug dealers. This is the stupidest thing I ever heard of. Drug dealers aren't afraid to die. They're already killing each other by the hundreds. Every day, they're not afraid to die. They don't give a fuck. Capital punishment doesn't mean anything unless you use it on people who are afraid to die. Like the bankers who launder the drug money. The bankers who launder the drug money. Forget the dealers. The drug business isn't going anywhere without these bankers. White, middle-class, suburban, Republican bankers, and these people do not want to die. I say if you want to slow down the drug trade, you got to start executing a few of these bankers. And I'm not talking about weak-ass American executions like the electric chair. I'm talking about fucking crucifixion, folks. Crucifixion. A form of capital punishment the Catholics and Jews of America can really appreciate. And I'd take it a step further. I'd crucify these people upside down. Like St. Peter, feet up, head down, and naked. I'd have naked upside down crucifixions once a week on TV at halftime of the Monday night football game. The Monday night crucifixions. Shit, you'd have people tuning in don't even care about football. Wouldn't you like to hear Dan Deerdorf explain why the nails have to go in at a certain angle? And I'll guarantee you one thing, you start nailing some of these bankers to a big wooden cross once a week on national TV, and you're going to see that drug traffic begin to slow down pretty goddamn quick. You won't even be able to buy drugs in schools and prisons anymore. Now, you see, I don't care about capital punishment personally, one way or another, because I know it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything except maybe satisfy a kind of biblical need for revenge. You know, if you read the Bible, you can see that the reason it's a big seller is because it's full of violence and revenge. So more than anything else, capital punishment is a religious ritual. It's a purification rite. It's a modern sacrament. And as long as that's true, I say let's spice it up a little bit. You know what I mean? Capital punishment doesn't have to be dull. Let's bring it into the 90s. I think if you liven up the death penalty a little bit and you learn how to market it, you might even be able to raise some money and balance the budget. Balance the budget. Let's face it, the polls show that the American people want capital punishment and they want a balanced budget. And I think even in a fake democracy, the people ought to get what they want once in a while. Just to keep them thinking they're really in charge. Keep them showing up at those meaningless jobs and keep them from using all those fucking guns they have. Let's use capital punishment the same way we use sports and television in this country to distract people and keep them from figuring out how bad they're being fucked. Now, unfortunately, football season only lasts 16 weeks. I think what we really need is year-round capital punishment on TV every night with sponsors. That's the way we raise the money to balance the budget sponsors. I'm sure as long as we're killing people, Dow Chemical and Marlboro cigarettes will be proud to participate. Proud to participate. That's it. Balance the budget, eliminate the deficit, pay off the national debt, and let me add this, let me say this, my interesting Judeo-Christian friends, not only would I recommend crucifixions, I'd be in favor of bringing back beheadings. Come on, beheadings on TV, slow motion, instant replay, really artistic shit. And maybe you could let the heads roll down a little hill and fall into one of 5 numbered holes. Have the people at home gamble on which hole the head is going to fall into. Interactive television snuff gambling. Cutting edge shit, you'll pardon the pun. And you let the mob in the stadium gamble on it too, raise a little extra money. And if you want to expand and stretch out the violence a little longer, take a few more bets, sell a few more commercials, instead of using an axe, you do the beheadings with a handsaw. Okay, you want something a little more delicate? Do them with an olive fork. That would be nice, and it would take a really long time. There's a lot of good things we could be doing. When's the last time we burned somebody at the stake? There's another form of capital punishment. Comes from a nice, rich religious tradition. Burning people at the stake. You know who sponsors this? Bridgeford Charcoal. And you put it on TV Sunday morning. You have the Sunday morning evangelical send us an offering, praise Jesus, human bonfire. You don't think that would get big ratings? In this fucking country? Shit, you'd have people skipping church to watch this goddamn thing. And they'd be better off, too. And you take the money that people send in for offerings, and you balance the budget. What about boiling people in oil? Boy, those were the days, huh? You get a little fire going. Once again, Bridgeford Charcoal. Then you get the oil going real good. You get a nice high rolling boil. And slowly, at the end of the rope, you lower the perpetrator head first into the boiling oil. You talk about fun shit! Wow! And to encourage citizen participation, you let the mob in the stadium control the speed of the rope. Democracy in action. Good, clean, wholesome American family entertainment. The kids are going to love it. The kids are going to love it. And they're learning a nice moral lesson at the same time. Boiling people in oil. You know who sponsors this? Crisco. And maybe instead of boiling all these guys, once in a while you could French fry a couple of them, you know? Yeah, French fried felons. Maybe dip a guy in egg batter once in a while. You know, kind of a tempura thing. Hey, Jeffrey Dahmer never thought of this shit, did he? Jeffrey Dahmer, eat your heart out. Which is an interesting thought all by itself, isn't it? Okay, enough nostalgia. What about some modern forms of capital punishment? What do you say we throw a guy off the top of the World Trade Center and whoever he lands on wins the Publishers Clearinghouse? Okay, you want something with a little more imagination? Dip a guy in brown gravy and lock him in a room with a Wolverine who's high on angel dust. Here's something good you can do. Shoot a guy out of a high-speed catapult right into a brick wall. The only trouble is we'll be over too quick, you know? No good for TV. You'd have to do a whole bunch of guys in a row. Maybe have 10 or 15 catapults. While you're shooting off one, you're loading up the others. Of course, every now and then you would have to stop just to clean off the wall. Cleanliness is next to godliness. Okay, catapult is kind of old-fashioned. What about some of our modern technology? I'll bet a lot of these criminals have never been through a paper shredder before. Want something a little more high-tech? A little more high-tech? You take a nice, clean, small nuclear weapon and stick it up a guy's ass. You talk about fallout, huh? The nuclear suppository. Preparation H-bomb. Or you put the nuclear weapon right in the little hole on the end of the guy's dick. Hey, yeah, it would be great. A bomb in the guy's dick, and then when it goes off, he wouldn't know whether he was coming or going. That's enough of that shit. That's enough of that shit. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Now, you know, the next little thing I want to do is called People I Can Do Without. You know? Because I think everybody has a list like that. I think everybody has inside his head a list of people you can do without, and I don't mean individuals, I'm talking about types. My list is more a list of types. Generic types of people I can do without. Guys in their 50s named Skip. Anyone who pays for vaginal jelly with a platinum Walmart card. An airline pilot who has on 2 different shoes. A proctologist with poor depth perception. A pimp who drives a Honda Accord. Guys with a lot of small pins on their hats. Well, it's just a really deeply felt personal hatred. Anyone who mentions Jesus 300 times in a 2-minute conversation. A dentist with blood in his hair. Any woman whose hobby is breastfeeding zoo animals. A funeral director who says, "Hope to see you folks again real soon." A man with only one lip. Old women who get drunk and throw up at brunch. A Boy Scout master who owns a dildo shop. People who actually know the second verse to the Star-Spangled Banner. Any lawyer who winks a lot and refers to the police as the federales. A cross-eyed nun with a bullwhip and a bottle of gin. Guys who have their names printed on their belts. Quite often they have a lot of small pins on their hats. A brain surgeon with "Born to Lose" tattooed on his hands. Couples whose children's names all start with the same initial. A man in a hospital gown directing traffic. A waitress with a visible infection on her serving